Hello everyone. I wanted to do a little bit of an unscripted video, so hopefully it turns out okay. But I wanted to share a little information about something. I see a lot of content, especially on TikTok, where people seem to have like kind of a misunderstanding or a confusion around the different kinds of news media that exist, especially in an age where a lot of our media is being driven by social media and being created and presented by people who are not associated with a legacy media of any sort. And we're truly living in the age of the citizen journalist. But with that and these different platforms comes a couple of different kinds of news creators that I think it's valuable for you to understand, so that A, you understand what kind of news you're getting, but B, so that you can set your expectations or level set what you're going to get from that person's reporting on the news. So I don't want to ramble forever. I'm just going to jump right in. So first you have like a news anchor, right? So a news anchor is someone that you would see on traditional television media news, right? They're on MSNBC and those kind of platforms, and they sit at a desk or they're out in the field and they're reporting the news to you. And when I say reporting the news to you, what I mean is that their job is to share with you an accounting or a summary of the major events of the news that have happened that day without providing any opinion and supposedly not providing any sort of bias. So they're not reflecting on what's happened, they're not talking about why they think it happened, they're not giving their opinion of it happening. They're simply giving a recitation to you of the facts. So when you're watching that kind of traditional sit-down news reporting, and you're getting frustrated that they're not telling you the why, or you're saying that they're not being honest about what's going on, or they're not giving the details you want to know, it's because you're watching the wrong kind of news for that analysis. So then the second thing is that news analysis. This is when someone is telling you about the news that has happened, or news that they themselves have discovered through their own journalism, and they're giving you an analysis of what's happened. So they might be giving more historical context, social context. They might have insights from different primary sources, either published materials or interviews they have done, that add different kinds of insight into a situation that has happened in the news. So they're telling you the facts of what have happened, but then they're taking it one step further and they're really digging into what this piece of news means amongst all of the other news that you're hearing. The third kind is what I would call news punditry, and this is what I think is extremely popular on spaces like YouTube and TikTok. These are folks who are taking the news that's happening, they're reporting to you kind of a base level concept, or the base level facts of what that piece of information is about. Then they're analyzing it, but they're analyzing it through their own opinion. They're giving you, this is why I think this has happened, this is how I connect the dots between this event and other events, or this person and other people who are involved. This is why I think they've done this. This is what I think will happen next. They're giving an analysis of what has happened with that news event, but they're taking it one step further, and they're really just giving you their op-ed. They're giving you what their opinions are on the event itself, why it's happened, and the players involved. And in a lot of news reporting you see about the current administration, this video is from 2025, you see a lot of that sort of punditry where folks are talking more about the players involved and their opinion of why they're making those decisions than about the news events themselves. And that's why when you see this kind of news journalism, it tends to have heavy bias, and it tends to be very, no offense, clickbaity in how it is presented in the thumbnails, etc. I see a lot of these kind of organizations or entities kind of lulling you into almost sometimes, I think, in my opinion, a sense of false security about where things are politically, because there's a lot of dunking on the players involved, right? So making the kind of content where you're kind of making fun of or ribbing on the system itself and the people involved, and that's what's driving your viewership over the actual reporting of those news facts, right? So if you're looking for that kind of content, people really kind of ribbing on the news itself in a more opinion-based way, what you're looking for is punditry content. And then the last thing I want to talk about, which I think is important, is what I call a news aggregator. And that is someone who takes what's happening that's already been reported by other news agencies, right? So they watch MSNBC, or they watch CBS, or they watch Fox News, or they watch whatever their source of main news information is. They get the breaking alerts from AP News, etc. And then when those stories are breaking, they then make content sharing with their followers what that breaking news is. Like a, hey, in case you missed it, this is something that's happening. They're not doing their own reporting. They're reporting on already existing sources, already existing stories. Now, if you follow me across my various different platforms, you might notice that I use different platforms of mine to do different kinds of news content. Some of the content I make is news aggregated material. This is a breaking story. A lot of people are talking about it. I might be seeing some weird misinformation or some weird reporting about it, and so I feel like here's what I've gathered as what's available out there right now, so you know what the facts are that have already been collected in this moment. I also do opinion pieces. More my opinion work tends to end up in written form on my website because I am first and foremost a writer trying to get into this new form of journalism. So in my long form written pieces, you might find more news analysis or more news punditry, more opinions on what is happening related to that news. And I also do just straight up what I would consider news reporting. A lot of the materials that I make for my TikTok, which are about crimes against children and politically motivated crimes and corporate callouts, a lot of that is me breaking down just what the facts are of a situation so that you're aware of the facts plainly, okay? And then I also tend to do some of that digging work, right, to do some of my analysis. So I will look at those primary sources. I will then dig up what sorts of records I can find related to those people and related to those companies. I will reach out to folks and see if they want to give me a statement. So it's taking it beyond just aggregating the news and actually looking into it yourself to develop your own spin on it. So I don't know if this is useful information to anyone, but again, I just wanted to make this video because I see a lot of people getting very frustrated with news content type creators for not speaking about the news in the way that they want to receive that information. And so I would say if the news sources you're currently watching aren't meeting that need, they're out there. But I would also say you should try to avoid only watching one form of news content. If you only watch pundit content on YouTube, for example, you're not getting a full unbiased take on what the news is. I recommend looking at the news from sources from all sides so you can see how each side is reporting on this information so that you can find the truth somewhere usually in the middle of all the noise. Hope this was helpful. If not, that's fine. You don't have to watch it. But stick around and follow me, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, leave a comment, curious about your thoughts. Are there any kinds of news that you see being made, especially on social media, that I didn't talk about? Go ahead and drop them below. Otherwise, have a great night.